The Simpsons Movie. Where do I begin with this movie? There are a lot of things that I can talk about with this movie. Not only is it the highest grossing adult animated movie ever, and not only do I think of it as a certified childhood classic among the likes of the Lego Movie, Despicable Me, and Nymphomaniac Volume 1 and 2. The case I'm trying to prove here is, it's just a good movie. It's funny, well animated, beautifully detailed comedy, and also it has Bart's wiener. There are a lot of things to talk about regarding the Simpsons movie. Not only does it have an Xbox 360 console variant that is known as one of the most rarest console variants of all time, not only did 7-Eleven change some of their locations to resemble Quickie Mart, with one of them being in the country where the flag has a fucking leaf on it, and not even gonna mention the heaps amount of cut content from the movie itself. But those are all subjects for a different video. And even if I were to do that video, other people have already beaten me to the punch. But that's okay, because I was one step ahead of everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's subject, we will be discussing about this. Now I know what you're thinking. What the hell am I looking at? And I mean, I wouldn't even put it against you. This shit is more pixelated than Darwin's feet. But this specific bootleg of the Simpsons movie is like no other bootleg of the Simpsons movie. This was actually one of the first bootlegs of the Simpsons movie. And the more interesting thing about this bootleg is, this was released before most of the world got the movie. And so, with intrigue on my mind, I managed to come into contact with the person who made this bootleg. So, join me on this adventure as I talk to you about the story of the first bootleg of
The Simpsons Movie in 2D. The bunny's not breathing.
This is Jose Antonio Duarte. At the time of this story, he is around 21 years old and still living with his parents in the Prairiewood suburbs of Sydney, Australia. Jose is a massive fan of The Simpsons, and just like any Simpsons fan in 2007, he was extremely hyped for the movie. The days counted as the movie got closer and closer to its release date, and on 26th of July 2007, Jose was gonna finally see the movie. So, together with one of his friends and his brother, Jose goes down to the Hoyt Cinema in Weatherhill Park. He goes and pays for his ticket alongside all of his other friends and heads to the screen that is about to show the movie. And after finding their seats and waiting for the movie to start, the lights dim and the movie begins. And Jose does not know this, but he is about to make a decision that would change his life forever. At the start of the 20th Century Fox logo, Jose starts recording the screen with his phone. And while he starts recording the screen with his phone, he just thinks that it's gonna last 5 seconds and then that's it. But then 5 seconds turns into 5 minutes, and 5 minutes becomes 15 minutes, then 30 minutes, then an hour, and just before you know, the movie ends. Jose had just unintentionally filmed the whole movie before the whole world even got it. So, after the movie was finished and he went back home, he went to go and upload it to the internet. He tried uploading the video to YouTube, but unfortunately, YouTube had a 10-minute video limit for every video back in those days. So, with YouTube out of the question, Jose went to find different websites, and eventually came across one called Video. Video was the perfect place to host Jose's video, and so Jose went to go and upload it to there. All was said and done, right? Well, Jose had some trouble uploading it to the site initially. The file was simply not uploading, and this kind of frustrated Jose, until he eventually found the problem. He just forgot to include a bunch of tags. Hold on, The Simpsons. And then he went to upload it. Wanting this to reach a wider audience, he posted a link onto his MySpace, and then he went to bed. But little did he know, when he clicked that upload button, it would set off some consequences that would affect his life. It started off pretty innocuous. Jose woke up and discovered that his video had been taken down by 20th Century Fox. Understandably, Jose was pissed, but he hadn't even realized just how much the plot thickens. For starters, the video was only up for around 2 hours before being taken down. But in that time frame, the video was downloaded over 3,000 times. Not only that, but through P2P sharing, the video had been downloaded over 110,000 times. Despite that impressive number of downloads, the bootleg was heavily criticized, most obviously for its video and audio quality, but also because of Jose's distinctive laugh. Despite that, however, Jose remained oblivious and just went on by his daily life. But he can only go on for so long before eventually they would catch him. 17th of August, 2007, Prairiewood, Sydney, Australia. It's around 5 to 6 a.m. and all seems peaceful in the neighborhood. Jose is sleeping alongside his girlfriend in the garage, which is his new bedroom after some converting. However, Jose gets suddenly woken up by a loud bang at the door. He wakes up to discover around 5 to 6 Australian federal police officers searching the house. The officers were sent out to the house following a search warrant for Jose's bootleg. Considering Jose didn't do anything to protect his identity while uploading the video, it was pretty easy to trace the bootleg back to him. The officers gathered him around the table and started asking him a bunch of questions, with the questions pertaining to the bootleg in order to make Jose confess to everything. However, Jose decided to do something a little ballsy. Whenever the officers asked him a question, Jose would just go, "No response." Jose kept this attitude up for some time. However, the officers eventually caught on and eventually started threatening Jose about the legal repercussions that he could be facing. And just like that, Jose dropped his cool guy attitude and eventually confessed to everything. After all was said and done, all of his devices, including ones from his family members, were seized. Not only did they seize all of the devices, they also managed to find the movie ticket and they took it as evidence. Even more wild is that they took in legitimate season box sets as evidence. Fast forward 2 months later and Jose is now in court ready to be trialed. While in court, Jose is charged with 2 things. The first charge was linked to copyright infringement, and the second one was linked to weapon possessionary charges. In addition to these charges, Jose was also facing up to 5 years in jail. So with the fear of potentially facing up to 5 years in jail, Jose pled guilty to all the 2 charges. In the end, he wasn't thankfully put in jail, but he did have to pay a fine of 1,000 Australian dollars. And that's the end of the story, right? Jose has to pay $1,000, and then it all just ends, wrapped nicely in a bow. Well, remember when I said that Jose made a decision that would change his life forever? If you do remember, thanks, because now we're moving on. It is now April 2008, 6 months after Jose had been fined. At this point, Jose has started looking for jobs, and has eventually come across a white-collar job. He is then eventually brought into an interview about the job, and he nails the interview aspect for the most part. Unfortunately, the interview part rears its ugly head when it comes time for a background check. And as we all know at this point, Jose had already been convicted of 2 crimes. Sadly, in the end, because of these criminal convictions, Jose did not get the job. He eventually tried looking for different jobs, but all of them rejected him because of his criminal convictions. So, with no other white-collar jobs that would accept him, Jose had no choice but to take on blue-collar jobs. He worked through these blue-collar jobs throughout most of his 20s, and it seemed like for the rest of the future, it was just blue-collar jobs and nothing else. But for those who are already reaching out for the tissue boxes, this story does have a happy ending. Eventually in the future, Jose would start up his own startup company called ClickHouse Media. And from what he told me through my conversation with him, he seems to have a pretty relaxed life up in Queensland. So even though his life did eventually turn out rough in the short term, in the long term, I'd say it's pretty decent. And that right there, folks, is the end of the story of the very first Simpsons movie bootleg. And so, kids, the moral of the story is, never pirate the Simpsons movie, it's gonna fuck you up in the future!